Hi, everyone. Oh,
Kitty
the cat went by us.
Hi, we got upstaged by a kitty cat.
We're a couple minutes late because the camera
don't know how to work
mysteriously
the camera.
between this afternoon and tonight.
It's so weird. Why is it going down my cleavage?
I have no idea what's going on.
Personal.
We're gonna be squished in like this all night, or
it's
like that.
Well, it's probably a better angle for our age because it's really from above.
I don't know what's going on.
What if I go like this?
Oh. See, it doesn't really work.
Well, that was a little bit better. Now it's not so much focused on my rack. Anyway, hi guys. It's Seth and James. And
why are you saying it with so much hostility?
I'm actually not. That's my speaking voice.
It's Seth and James.
I'm just projecting to the back row.
Okay, you don't need to, Seth.
It's stars in the Hoos,
yes,
the Canadian version. Is that kind of staging us again?
Yes, but don't draw too much attention to him.
So we started in March for the Actors Fund, and this week we pivoted to the to the NAACP, and then there's a space LDF. It's Legal Defense Fund.
That's right.
And we've been raising money since Monday. We've actually raised a delicious amount of money. Camel's already giving us notes.
Why is James almost off screen?
I asked him to scoot the chairs, and he's like, I can't.
Well, move the hell over.
But now look. Oh, you're saying I should go that way? Everything is reversed. I keep thinking I should go that way. Okay, hold on. But now, I'm not near the desk.
See, this is where I'm on Anna Gasteir's side about the simmering marital
It's
tensions.
not simmering. It's
literally in front of a lot of people. Okay.
NA to the Who.
Okay. Wilson's smiling. He's getting a kick out of us. Okay. That's all that counts.
So we have Wilson Cruz tonight, from TV to musical theater to activist, as last minute says. We'll talk about that in a moment. But let's first say, so you can donate to...
You can take that off.
Oh, that? And how about that? All right. Okay, so here's the deal. You can donate to NAACP LDF by going to naacpldf.org/stars in the house. And then we know that then you have to forward it to us to know that you're donating. You forward it to starsinthehouse2020@gmail.com. So you donate NAACP LDF. By the way, do we have the information about what they are?
Yes, sir. And I'm looking at some donations that I'm going to read off right now. Okay, we've actually gotten a few or several in the last day that we have not read. So I'm going to read them. But here's
what they are. NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund is America's premier legal organization fighting for racial justice. Through litigation, advocacy, and public education, LDF seeks structural changes to expand democracy, eliminate disparities, and achieve racial justice in a society that fulfills the promise of equality for all Americans. LDF, I love this, also defends the gains and protections won over the past 75 years, instead of trying to set them back, what some people are doing, man. So they defend the gains and protections won over the past 75 years of civil rights struggle and works to improve the quality and diversity of judicial and executive appointment. So we were talking about on Broadway how there has to be a lot more diversity on the creative team. There has to be a lot more diversity in the judicial and executive appointments as well.
So I want to read some donations here from people and to give them a shout out because we haven't said their names out loud. This is for if you forward your donation to Stars in the House 2020, you send that donation receipt you get from NAACP LDF.
Yes.
We want to thank Rachel Diamond, who gave $50. Isabel from Germany gave $50.
Isabel, she's so loyal, man. Thank you, Isabel.
Sandy from North Carolina gave $36. Andrea from New York City, $26. Some of these people, I don't know where they came from, but they donated, so I'm going to say their name. Rachel, $50. Thank you very much. Cynthia donated $50. Wow. Virginia donated $50. Carol R, $50. Lamont from Henderson, Nevada, because we know him from the choir who did What the World Needs Sounds Loud.
Oh, that's
nice.
Right.
So we shout out to Lamont. He donated $50. Thank you, Lamont. Donald, $25. Ed, $50. And Robert, $25. Thank you very much.
Okay, someone keeps commenting to bring the Flashcast back. We may in the future, so don't worry about it. Your comments aren't going to help. So posting it 50 times doesn't help. They may come back in the future. So take care. We saw it. Move on.
That's
now
right.
Then, by the way, it is so weird to be talking. We got to fix this
I know it.
Hey, listen, by the way,
we can.
Tomorrow night we have a big announcement. Tomorrow night at 8.
Oh.
We have 4 Phantoms. We have Ramin Karimloo, Hugh Pinero, Howard McGillen, and Norm Lewis all here. Talk about being a Phantom of the Opera on Broadway, who, by the way, gets 20 minutes of stage time, even though he's the title role. We'll talk about that. Or maybe 22 minutes.
Ramin's going to be stand-up late. It'll be 1 a.m. in London.
Yes.
He's stand-up late.
Oh, hey, wait. Jack Plotnick has a great comment. Okay. Seriously, you can't flood my comments. Jack does an amazing bust.
Oh, look at this. So I love when people say when they're so far away.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that, Wilson. Someone from Finland is watching.
Wilson, you have a fan in Finland. I love it. Or actually, we have a fan.
You know what? How about we all have a fan in Finland?
We have
That's
a fan,
nice.
but we all have a fan.
That's
hey, listen,
right.
we're going to pre-record our message tomorrow. Starts in the house matinee because there's a march right near our house that we all want to go to. And Julie was like, I want to go to a smaller march, our kid. And we're like, because we live in a really small town. And Julie's like, I'm going to start my own march. So Julie, why don't you come out and talk about, she literally made a sign and basically stood in a gas station.
Here, why don't you come here?
Okay,
So, there you go.
Basically what happened was I was feeling very helpless and
Taking that on us, but that's another story. Go on.
but I decided to buy a whole bunch of poster boards and I wrote Black Lives Matter on it, and I did my own march by myself.
She was her own parade.
I walked up and down the streets of my very conservative little small town, and someone threw a rock at me, but someone also bought me water. So I mean,
So it's win-win? Well,
yeah.
I guess win-lose.
But
So
you know, the
but-
majority,
no,
but
the
but
majority were
majority-
honking and be very positive.
I had a thing that says honk for justice, and I got hundreds of honks. Like everyone who drove by honked. And
One
then-
rock, lots of honks.
But
Yeah.
you were actually
No.
surprised. I was surprised.
I
when
was
you told me
surprised.
that so many people were actually
yeah.
in favor of what you were
And
saying.
then what really touched me was this really sweet gay couple saw me on the street by myself. They ran back home and they got their signs and they came and they joined me. And that's how this all gets started, is one person doing the right thing and others will follow.
Literally, she's by herself. Isn't that incredible? And they saw her, went home, got their signs, came back.
And then you got their phone number.
And I got their phone number and we're going to meet up tomorrow at the march. And
Yes.
they said if I ever want somebody to walk down the street with, I can call them. So now I have 2 allies in this town.
Which also, didn't you tell me? Tell everyone that you said that they hadn't something like they've lived here for a long time. Like we haven't been
Yeah.
here that long. And
Yeah.
talk about that, and they hadn't seen anyone.
They hadn't seen anybody in our town, our small town, do anything. And so they'd been going out of our town to protest.
Yeah.
They didn't think it was possible in our small town. But because I thought it was insane that there was nothing being done here, I decided to do it, and it ended up working, and hopefully, yeah, very quickly, and hopefully more people like what I did can go out in their small towns, even if you're by yourself. I was by myself.
Talk about social distancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was by myself. I still had a mask on, but I did it by myself, and that's how things get started.
Way to go, girl. It's true. And yay, Julie.
Bye.
Yay,
Mwah.
Julie.
All right.
And bye, Julie. We love you. And by the
Yay.
way, Julie,
Now look.
What?
Here, we'll bring on.
was that a cat tail I just saw?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
it is.
Romeo.
Woo!
It's little Romeo. Ignore that part. All right, so we're going to be marching tomorrow with Julie.
All right,
Um,
All right, honey.
good
Julie's-
show, guys.
oh, my God. Wilson, hi from South Australia. I don't even know. It's literally Tuesday afternoon there. All right, anyway, here we go.
Tuesday afternoon.
I can't
Hold
keep
on,
track of
gotta
that.
get there for sure.
Turn the damn air conditioner.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let us bring on the star of the day. He is an activist, as Liza says, an actor, a songstress, a dancer in heels and rent. Here he is, amazing Wilson Cruz.
Hi, kids.
Hi, Wilson.
Hi, lady. First of all, I said Wilson's literally in an optical illusion. Isn't it cool? He's in one of those rooms, in the
Yeah.
fun rooms where it's like, is it turning? What's happening?
Things are closer than they appear, right?
Exactly. None of my.
So,
So, Julie,
Julie, oh my God, thank you for doing that. You're an amazing young woman. Thank you.
yeah, she's got to. She says she loves you. So, Wilson, you're in California right now, right?
Yes.
Um,
LA.
Yes, ma'am. Let's just go back. You know, we've been talking a lot about diversity casting, and it's just amazing that at such a young age you got a TV show. And I guess my first question is, what a lot of people have been telling us is like they go to auditions and it's all these Asian people, and they're like, "We're up for the one Asian role." Was the role supposed to be Hispanic that you auditioned for? Like, how did you get it? My So-Called Life.
1994, first of all. Actually, it was 1993. There were there was one Latino on TV in a series regular role at the time. His name was Jimmy Smits on NYPD Blue.
Wow.
And Winnie Holzman wrote this pilot. And in the pilot, she wrote this character, Ricky Vasquez, who was half Black, half Puerto Rican. She's talked about it, and she has said, she was like, she went to the casting director, Mary Goldberg, at the time and said, we're going to have a hard time finding this person. So they thought they were going to have to go outside of the normal, way of casting. But no, I showed up.
How did you know about it? Were you a theater kid? Like, how'd you get the audition? I
had an agent by the time I was 16. So this was my first pilot audition, first time's luck. What did that say? What is that old saying?
First time's the charm?
I don't know. Anyway, it was my first, I had just done a recurring role on a series that got canceled, which is a theme for me, with Tobey Maguire. It was his big thing. And I did 3 episodes of one of 3 choir boys. So I got my SAG card from there because we had to sing all of our parts in 3-part harmonies. All of our lines were 3-part harmonies.
Wait, was this pop rock or something?
It was just us. We were the only thing that sang, the only thing in the show that was singing. But it was this very odd, over the top, half-hour single camera. And it was the fantasy in Toby's character's head. And so in his head, we sang everything. Anyway, and the following year after doing that was the audition for my so-called life.
But how did being, first of all, Afro-Latino, and also, did you know you were gay at that age?
Oh my God, I was 19. Boy, did I know I was gay.
But my point is, how did you have the courage to pursue a career when there's so many obstacles I would think in front of you, and at that time period, such limited roles you could play? Didn't people just say, forget it, you'll never get a job?
Yeah, but people say that to people of color about everything.
Oh.
Everything is a shot in the dark when you're in the skin, especially back in 1994. So I'm used to going after the impossible. And also, there is the naivete of youth, right?
Mm.
Like, you can't tell a young person that they can't do something. They're going to prove you wrong just to prove you wrong.
Yeah, that was her.
And the same thing happened with Rent. When I went in for Rent, they didn't want to see me because I had television credits. And so I auditioned for the first national tour, and they were like, no, we're not doing names. And then I went back, and Michael Greif was like, where have you been? Why haven't I seen you? And I was like, I was here last year, child. And then they finally, then he was like, thank you. And then but this is the naivete of youth. You could not have told me not to audition for Rent. I'd never auditioned for a Broadway show before.
Well, Wilson, go back. Did you grow up with an artistic family? Like, what was your family life like?
No, we appreciated the arts. I knew what I wanted to do. My mother will tell you that as a toddler, I knew that I wanted to be an actor and that I wanted to perform. And so, from an early age, I was in a dance class. I played 3 instruments by the time I was in junior high school. I joined the choir. I went to public schools. So I used the public schools art system, art education. So I came out of that, and I was in California because we lived 60 miles east of here by then. And my mother drove me every weekend to a commercial acting class in Beverly Hills, which was an hour drive every Saturday on her day off. And she would sit in her car for 4 hours in Beverly Hills while I took a commercial acting class. And at the end of that, I think it was a 4-month course, they had a showcase with, they invited agents and casting directors. And an agent there at what used to be KSA signed me. And that was 1991. That was the year I graduated high school. No, it was 1990. It was the year before.
Your very first showcase, and you got an agent?
Yeah. Beginner's luck. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, someone actually posted that to remind us. Okay, so hold on. So you get this TV show, not ensemble. You get like this lead role, and
It was
then
an ensemble. It was ensemble.
but no, I mean, it wasn't like like not a background play. I'm using Broadway ensemble. I mean, like,
Oh, yes.
how much of a panic were you in during the first read through? You weren't thinking, "Oh my God, I'm gonna get fired," like I always think.
No, I fake it really good. Like I fake what I know what I'm doing. I do it all the time. And here's the thing. Because of this, I work with a lot of young actors in order to prepare them for their first day on set. But I came from the theater world. I was in college. I was doing plays, and I didn't know a lot about TV and film. And so when I showed up to work on Great Scott, I literally was like a sponge. I didn't know that I was supposed to hit a mark, and where I was learning everything on the fly. But it worked out. I figured it out.
And did you think of yourself as a role model when you were doing the part?
My so-called life?
Yeah.
Yes, because I knew what that meant. I knew what that role would have meant to people. I knew how powerful that image was and that story was, because I longed for it when I was a young person. I felt invisible because there was nothing on television or film that I could point to that spoke to my lived experience. And so I understood that being cast in this part came with responsibility. It was the first openly gay teenager on primetime network TV. And I was the first openly gay actor to play an openly gay series regular role on primetime TV in 1994. And so I understood that I had to step up and be the person that I had always wanted to see, and to be that for young people, and to be a vessel, really, for that story, to help expand people's minds. And there's not a day, this is not an exaggeration, there is not a day that someone does not reach out to me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram to tell me what that role meant to them. And it never gets old. I cry every freaking time, because it meant something to me. It saved me. It saved me.
Hey, Wilson, my sister is watching,
inspired this white
and I
woman.
did not know this. So this will make you cry. When you played on My So-Called Life, I just started high school in a conservative Texas town, and watching you inspired me to let my friends know my big brother is gay. I didn't know that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you guys wreck me. It's a good thing I don't wear eye makeup, because I'm. Thank you. What's her name? I didn't see her name.
Danielle.
Thank you, Danielle. I love your brother too.
Let's look at a photo of you in that show. And everyone looks.
By the way, my hair was about that tall about 3 days ago before I got a haircut.
You look like Justina from One Day at a Time. It's that
I
same.
think that is a huge compliment. That's my girl, Justina Machado. And I was supposed to be filming an episode of One Day at a Time. But
oh no.
We're gonna do it before, when things open up. I'll be back. I'll be on. I'm excited.
Someone said you just got a post-COVID haircut. Someone just commented.
I did. I had my barber come to me. Yes. 2 days ago, because you would not have wanted to see what was happening.
I Julie cut my hair because it turned into just basically straw that was cut. It was basically a fire hazard. It was horrific looking. So anyway, Julie had to cut my hair.
I paid a pretty penny for this haircut. But there's there's a lot going on in terms of Pride that's happening virtually, and and I didn't want to spoil anybody's Pride with my Corona flow.
But you're talking about Pride. It's interesting because a lot of people of color talk about they can't hide who they are, and that's one of the hard things about being a person of color. But you could have hid that you were gay. Did anyone say whatever you do, don't come out? Like, why did you decide to be openly gay?
First of all, I always thought it was ridiculous when people were like, "You shouldn't tell anybody." I'm like, I don't really have to tell anybody because I just felt like that was going to be a lot more work than I wanted to do. And I also, like I said earlier, really felt that I needed to step up and take that risk. Although at the time, I have to tell you, I didn't really see it as a risk. I saw it as freedom. And And I also saw it as a way of signaling to the industry that there was somebody who would be, not only wanted to be, but was excited about playing these roles. And I knew that there was, on the part of content creators, a desire to tell those stories, but there weren't a lot of people who were willing to play those roles. And so I offered myself up. And at every job that I've had on TV or film, I have been a quote unquote consultant on it in some way in order to help develop the story and make it better, especially early on. So I came out because I wanted to tell those stories, and I wanted to be, like I said earlier, the person that I needed when I was a young person.
Wilson, did you have actors say to you, gosh, I wish I could come out, or anything like that, especially in the early 90s?
To this week, I have, I mean, one of the things that came with that responsibility was the willingness to have difficult conversations with creative people who were searching for permission to do what I did. And I won't name any names, but there have been people who have come out who reached out to me for advice on how to do it, and what they should say and what to expect. And I've guided a few people.
What's this month like for you? Because it's Pride, but it's also, there's so much going on with civil rights and with people of color. How are you dividing your time? Are you like, it's all the same? Like, what's your take on it?
Well, up until this week, I was doing my own Instagram live thing on Tuesday and Friday, in which I was just providing people space to tell the story of their experience during the quarantine. And I wanted to hear from them. So I was doing that Tuesday and Fridays, and I needed to stop because there was a lot of virtual prides that are happening throughout the country in different municipalities and states. And so I've been approached about recording various videos. And then I wanted to be a part of these protests. So I cleared some of my schedule. But the thing about this month is those of us who live in the intersections of people of color and LGBTQ, this is probably the freest we've ever felt, to be honest with you. It's probably the best Pride we've ever had, because we're being asked about our experience and people are actually willing to hear it. And when you live in the intersections of people of color and LGBTQ people, you sometimes feel like you have to code switch when you're in those communities. I sometimes feel like I have to, I sometimes felt like I had to turn down the gay and Latino when I was in the Latino community, and turn down the Latino when I was with LGBTQ people. And you never felt like you could bring all of yourself to both communities. And I, after Pulse, actually committed to not doing that anymore. And so I see that a lot more these days, especially this month. But what the thing that makes me proud the most this year, the thing when people ask me why is Pride important, for me it's important because, well, for me, I'm proud this year because of the way that we as a community are showing up. How we showed up for each other during the quarantine, how we took care of each other, how we didn't throw a fit when they told us that we couldn't be in the streets for Pride, that we understood as a community that it was the thing to do, it was the right thing to do. We didn't show up with a militia outside of state capitals. But that being said, when the Black Lives Matter marches started, we knew and understood as a community that we are a part of that fight. And the other thing I wanted to say is, everybody's talking about how the LGBT community needs to be a good ally to people of color. You don't need to be an ally. This is your fight. It is your fight. It is, we are part of your community. We are your brothers and sisters. We stand and suffer with you in the same way that you do all year long. We just have an extra boulder to roll around with us. And to have you with us during this fight, during this struggle, during this conversation,
right,
is going to change us in a way that we've been asking for decades. And it's going to help us to feel seen in our own community. And some of the, the things that have moved me the most when I've been out in the protest is when white LGBTQ people have placed their bodies between police officers and African-American people in these protests. And hadn't been asked to do it, but literally when we're coming across police officers, you hear people say, white allies to the front. And the first ones that I've seen to run up there were people wearing rainbow flags, pink triangles. And to me, that is definition of community. And that is the spirit of what Pride should always be.
I love it. That's really inspiring.
That is inspiring. You're inspiring us, Wilson.
Oh, good.
Let me ask you, I can't remember how we met you. I feel like I met you through James somehow. How did we all connect? Was it through the DNC? Is that where we first worked together?
I think it was through, well, no, I think Seth, you and I had met before that, but I don't know why.
Neither do I. I don't think you were on my show.
No, maybe we did meet there. Maybe we did meet at the DNC thing.
I remember I gave you the solo. I remember I picked it up because I liked your riff. This is Wilson at the DNC. First it's Cagney and Lacey, and then it's Little My So-Called Life. Let's enjoy. Here we go.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, for everyone. Lord, we don't need another meadow. There are cornfields and wheat fields enough to grow.
I got that eventually.
I love that riff.
I just remember I wanted them. I was like, give me the freaking mic.
I always tell people that after we filmed that, my favorite tweet said, "What the world needs now is more microphones," because it was such panic.
I know. It was so much fun. We had such a blast that day. Oh God, it feels like that was 25,000 years ago. That was another universe. That was another universe. It was a different timeline. We were in a different timeline.
Yeah.
I can't. Did you take the bus with us, or did you meet us there? I can't remember.
You were there, Wilson.
I met you there.
You were already there.
Yes, I was already there. I
got
there.
Yeah. We have to go back to your Rent days. Did you do the tour with, was it Nika Larson on that tour? Neil Patrick Harris. I'm trying to think.
I thought I met Anika when she came to the Broadway cast, but I guess she was on the tour. Oh no, you know what happened? I know what happened. Anika came into that tour after I had been moved up to the Broadway cast, and then she joined us on the Broadway cast later.
So Wilson, I saw you. You did it at the Amundsen?
I did. I never got to tour. I did it at the La Jolla Playhouse. I moved to the Amundsen, and then in the middle of my run at the Amundsen, I came to New York.
I saw you in La Jolla.
I saw it early on in the run at the Amundsen.
Aww.
Yeah. I loved
we saw your ass.
I had the time of my life.
What was the hard thing about doing that part? Was it Darius told me he was jumping off that table on those heels?
Yeah, I was like, first of all, it hurt my back. I was like, I'm not jumping down on those. I'm going to just tell you the tea. I did it a couple of times, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to do that 8 times a week because of the way I'm built, like landing on those heels and the way they were built. I was like, I don't know what he's doing to make that work, but I'm not doing it. And I also thought my girl was a bit more, she was a bit more graceful. She had a little bit more elegance. So I did this thing where I just kind of, leapt through it and then went into some chaîné turns and all that. But that was hard. The quick changes were a lot of work. Like that quick change into the Santa suit is very fast because you're putting on the makeup and taking off the costume and then putting on the others. A lot of it was underdressed, but it took a long time. But then by the time I was like 6 months into the show, I had time to like do all of that and have a drink of water and, you know, tell somebody they sounded good or not. I'm just kidding. I would never do it. But it was amazing. I think the memory I come away from that is the fact that this kid, you know, thought he could do that and found a way to do it and muscled his way through it. I didn't go to musical theater. I was in a musical theater major. I didn't have a fine arts degree. I went to private teachers to learn, you know, my voice, and I relied on my dance training and see what happens. The reason for doing that show, to be honest with you, and I've said this before, and I've talked to Wilson about it as well, is that I loved his performance so much. His performance was the reason why I wanted to do it. But I wanted to kind of expand the Without You section, which isn't even my section. It's the time when the three tables are in there. But that scene for me as an actor, when Collins comes to the hospital room and finds Angel there and then takes him in his arms and takes him home before he dies. I thought there was a lot of to mine in that moment, to say something about what that relationship was, but also to say something about what that death was like.
It's a heavy show, man. I found a clip of you, which I'll show, but I always hate it because it's about murdering a dog, but I always pretend that didn't really happen.
Wait, is this the B-roll with the different wig really early on?
Yes, girl. You better accept that it's a film.
Wait, before you say you play it, I just have to tell you, this was weeks before we opened. I was much better by the time I opened.
Still got the sass, but I'm going to ignore the lyrics and pretend they're not really happening.
Okay.
It was my lucky day today on Avenue A when a lady in a limousine drove my way. She said, darling, be a dear, haven't slept in a year. I need your help to make my neighbor's yappy dog disappear. This Akita Evita just won't shut up. I believe if you play non-stop, that pup will breathe its very last high-strung breath.
I mean, I would say that was like that was more like me marking it at that point. I think, you know, but that was Full Out at the time, but it got better.
Yep. All right. Speaking of Full Out, we're bringing out a Full Out MD. This is Dr. John LaPook, who's our chief medical correspondent on CBS, as well as Stars in the House, to answer your question, our questions, viewers' questions, and whatever he has to say. Dr. John LaPook, welcome to the show, dear.
Hi, Wilson. How are you? Nice to meet you. The hair's getting long again. I need your daughter.
I know. Look how great mine looks. She did it yesterday. Still got it.
I love your white hair. It's so pretty.
I'm starting to get some gray hair. Yeah, I noticed.
Oh,
That's good.
I like it.
Dr. J.
Around at the beginning of the lockdown. Yeah.
Give us the update.
You know, I always hate to be like, you know, Debbie Downer. But I want to remind everybody that we're still in the middle of a pandemic, even though the stock market shot up. And I worry about losing focus on that. We're still seeing more than 20,000 new cases a day. Right. Yes, cases have dropped in the Northeast, but they're rising in the South and the West, and they're rising just about in the same number of states as they're falling. So, you know, it's a time when obviously our attention is correctly focused on the social justice issues and protesting, and I get all that. But I just want to say it again to everybody. We're in the middle of this pandemic. The number of cases is not coming down nationally. Please be safe when you're out there protesting. Wear a mask. Have a message on the mask if you want to do that. It's another billboard. I
love that.
I've been and try to stay 6 feet. There was this Lancet article. I'll say it again. It's hard to know exactly the statistics, but you get about 80% protection from just being 3 feet away from somebody. It's twice that if you're 6 feet away. It's twice that if you're 9 feet. So it really matters. And if you can go to 6 feet and 9 feet outside, wear the mask. It really is going to make a big difference. And I think we finished writing the script you guys always get it earlier than it's not even aired yet on CBS Evening News. We finished writing the script today. That's going to be on next week. That basically says aerosolization, which means not just the droplets that you sneeze or you cough and they go for about 6 feet and they fall to the ground by gravity. These tiny little aerosols, they're much smaller. The fluid evaporates and then they float out and they can fill a room. Now, asterisk, we don't know how infectious they are on the other side of the room. We don't know how many of them. There must be fewer than right in front of you. But it's a reason to, as another layer of protection, to consider wearing a face mask if you're in a setting where you're highly vulnerable, you're not quite sure where everybody has been, you're indoors. And if you're indoors, we spoke to an expert on sick buildings. I love this guy. You'll find him very interesting next week. But he talks about the importance of simple things like ventilation. Crack a door, open the window, let this air out. And then thinking about once you accept that there's this problem with potential spread indoors, not just by droplets but by aerosolization, that's fixable. Let's think about nice solutions like UV lights in ducts that can zap it, changing the circulation so that it's safer. We have so many buildings anyway that are unsafe in terms of air circulation. So what would be the worst thing that happens if it turns out aerosolization is not as big? Nobody can tell you how big of a component of the spread it is. But if it's 1%, as this guy said, what's the downside of improving ventilation? The air that you're breathing is better?
Right.
Exactly.
Dr. LaPook, you've got a lot of questions here. So Wilson, do you mind ask a few questions here? Okay. So we've had I know it covers you here, but Dr. LaPook, how long does it take for smell and taste to come back? It's been 2 months for me, and I'm still only about 50%.
Yeah, we don't know yet because it's so early, but in previous viruses, respiratory viruses, where people have lost their sense of smell, rough estimate was a third. A third came back totally, and it could take a year. It could take up to a year, maybe even more. A third had partial recovery, and a third had no recovery. We don't know whether that's going to hold for this, but people should be prepared for the fact that it could be a long haul to get it back. And I know that's so disconcerting because you need smell for taste to get full taste.
Right. Here's another one. I think we know the answer, but go ahead and answer it. Do you know why they're rising in those areas that you mentioned?
Yeah. Again, we have to, do more testing and more epidemiologic evaluation to figure that out. But this was something that seemed to roll from there was a strain that came from Europe that hit New York City. We were totally unprepared for it, right? And there was all the crowding. It was probably here in late January now, we think, and early February on the West Coast. So that came from China. And then in New York City, it was probably here earlier than we thought also, but also maybe in January or February. And so it spread through there. And then it takes time for it to ricochet across the country. It's going to be worse in areas that are tightly packed. So New York City was just an accident waiting to happen, especially with the subway. But it's making its way to these other areas. And especially, I think you're going to find the areas that don't take the precautions seriously are going to be the worst affected with this marching now and with people not social distancing and also with opening up without wearing masks and doing the proper stuff. You're going to start to see, I think, cases climbing. We can safely go out carefully. I understand it's time to do that, to start thinking about it. But you got to think about what part of the country are you in? Are you in a part where it's really rampant or it's relatively fewer cases? Are you going out still with the right precautions? If you go out with the face mask, it dramatically decreases the spread. There's this wonderful laser shot on the New York Times website where they have a person just talking, just regular talking. And you see these little particles coming out. And then he puts the mask on, and it dramatically lowers it. I think if people saw that, they would buy in more. And also if they realized it's not just them, the CDC said this, it's not just that you are protecting somebody else from getting sick from you. There probably is a level of protection that you're getting to. So those people who it's not enough to know I'm saving somebody else, there's a little self-interest there too.
Okay, here's one more. Dr. LaPook, if I'm speaking to a few people properly, social distancing, and I'm about 10 feet away teaching, should I still wear a mask?
So this is presumably indoors, right? Outdoors is a lot safer because you have the dilution of the air. I specifically asked this question when I was doing the research because I'm really interested in that question. I have a father-in-law who's 98 years old and who's very vulnerable. And I think you have to think about layers of protection. So there's no yes or no answer there because you have to say, okay, what's the ventilation in there? Is it really good ventilation? Who's in the room? Is it people who are likely to have been in contact with somebody with COVID? Were they tested recently and they're negative? Are there people in the room who are vulnerable so that it's even more reason to want to be careful? Right. So to me, I'm the careful, maybe overly careful, belt and suspenders, and then maybe a third thing if I could find it. Indoors, for me, my own risk tolerance would be at 10 feet indoors. Unless I knew the ventilation was amazing and I knew everybody had no risk, I would wear the mask personally. That's not what the CDC is willing to say yet. They're saying if you can't be within 6 feet, if you can't be social distance, at least 6 feet, then consider wearing a mask depending upon your risk of tolerance and depending upon what else is going on there. So I think it's layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, and it's risk tolerance. There are some people who never cross the street. They don't want to get hit by a car, and there are other people who ride a motorcycle. And people are in between in their risk.
I mean, it becomes a whole other discussion, which we will get back to Wilson. But I mean, even reading in the paper about not having those specific guidelines and the problems with the airlines, and that there's nothing, people going on airplanes, and some people are wearing masks and others aren't, and the flight attendants are scared to say something, and on their website it says one thing, and then what happens in reality is another. I mean, it's kind of a mess. And
the guidelines may be buried so far within a website that it's hard to even find it. Like, there is stuff on the CDC website about ventilation, but it doesn't jump out at you. It's there. I think you're absolutely right, James. We need very specific guidance, but also, what have I been doing from the very beginning? It's better to teach somebody how to fish than to give them a fish. The reason why I'm explaining about droplet spread and 6 feet and then aerosolization and washing your hands and soap destroys it and wearing a mask helps is to give people the ability in their own specific instance to calculate their relative risk. Nobody's going to ever say you're 100% safe unless you're at home in the cone of silence with nobody else, around. But everything else is some risk. But at least you should be able to think about, how do I even think about this?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I wanted to say this quickly because I am interested in this. If you get tested and you're negative, then go shopping, then go home. Doesn't that erase the test? Like the test is only good for the moment it's taken? Yeah, that's the point.
Correct.
Yeah, so, and then
you were negative. If it was a PCR and it was accurate, not 100%, but if it was really negative, you go outside and you get infected. What's the incubation period, Seth and James?
7 to 14 days.
That's right.
2 to 14 days. So that means that by day 2 or by day 3, you're not safe. It could by then have been popping out. And remember, a lot of the spread is without symptoms. So exactly that instance, you get a negative test. What's today? Saturday? It's Friday?
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah. What day it is? Today's Friday. Yesterday, I get a test and it's negative. Today, I get infected. On Tuesday of next week, Wednesday, I could start shedding it and have no symptoms, and I go infect somebody. So no, it tells you were negative then, but it doesn't do anything going forward.
And finally, just quickly, are we going to be wearing masks for months and years? Should we just get used to wearing them? When are we going to think stop?
I think it's a good idea to get used to wearing them, but there's a lot happening very quickly right now. I keep saying, we can't be cocky about this. This is we're building the plane engine as we're flying. Yeah. So we're seeing new data every day. Let's see what happens to the numbers. But I think wearing a mask is not so. I mean, believe me, I don't like wearing a mask. But wearing a mask may be the price that we all have to pay to get back to normal. Because you don't have to necessarily stay home all the time. If you're wearing a mask and you do the social distancing, we could start to think about getting out there and doing our thing again. So, I think the answer is until there's a vaccine, we're not going to see herd immunity for a while, right? That's where you need like 60 to 80% of the people infected to protect the herd. We're way less than that right now. So we're going to rely on this vaccine. They're making great progress with it. But in the meantime, the mask. Go design a nice looking mask. Put that banner on it if you want.
That's right.
I love
Okay.
it.
All
Dr.
right.
Pook,
Thanks,
you're
Dr.
great.
Pook.
See you tomorrow.
Thank
As
you.
usual.
Take care, Wilson.
Thank you, Dr.
Bye.
Mel.
It's a CBS doctor themed episode.
Okay, so we got to talk about Star Trek, which I just want to call Star Trek. Star Trek. How the hell did you
Get that gig.
how'd you get that gig?
I got really lucky.
I knew you were going to say that.
I worked for Aaron Harbert and Gretchen Berg when I did the series finale of Pushing Daisies with Kristen Chenoweth back years ago, and then they came on to produce Star Trek Discovery, and they called me up, and I flipped my wig.
Talk
So
about
no-
offer only.
I was gonna say no audition. It just you went from a phone call to this work.
Yes. Actually, I got offered 13 Reasons Why first by Brian Yorkie, and I did that. And then I think that reminded Gretchen and Aaron, oh, Wilson, and then they called. So it was like, and so then I actually ended up doing both at the same time for the first couple of years.
Wow.
That was fun. I would be on a plane. I would go to Northern California for 3 days, work there, and then get on a plane and work in Toronto for 3 days, and then go back. And it was a whole thing. It was
Fun. So you have these My So-Called Life fans. What are the Star Trek fans like?
I mean, those people, are people who said they're here from Finland and Switzerland, I think it was. Those are my people, man. They're amazing. They're amazing, but they're also honest. They're going to tell you when they don't like something, but they're going to tell you when they do like something. And they're loyal and they're passionate and they know their Star Trek.
Well, without giving spoiler alerts, in case everyone hasn't watched on CBS All Access, did you get a lot of feedback about your character? And
Yes. Yes.
There you go, that's fine.
He's a pretty fascinating guy. His arc is epic, I have to say.
Yeah.
It spans time and place and physics. But it's probably one of the best gigs I've ever had. And I get to work with my love, my sweetheart, my friend of over 20 years, Anthony Rapp. So, it's all good, man.
Did you guys ever do Rent together, or were you in two different casts? Oh, you did?
My first month on Broadway was his last month on Broadway. So we overlapped for a month, and that's how we met.
And what's it like actually doing a show like that? Is the set just really bare, or do you actually feel like, oh my God, I am in a spaceship? Because there's a lot of
it's immersive. I mean, we have the largest sound stage in North America.
Love that.
In Toronto. It's where Guillermo del Toro does all of his films, and he's not happy with us right now because we have but we have to see it a lot. But I remember the first day I got there because I came in for a fitting before I started working, and I met everyone. They toured me around, and when you're in there, it's immersive. Like you're completely surrounded by it. It's beautiful, and it helps you as an actor, escape reality for sure.
Wilson, were you a Star Trek fan before? Like, how much did you know it?
I was a Next Gen guy. That was my Star Trek. But I also knew and appreciated and loved the history of Star Trek. And what is and was powerful to me about it is that it helps us imagine a better world. It gives us a goal, a place that we can aspire to, a world in which who we are, what color we are, who we love, what gender we are, isn't important. What's important is how you are part of saving the world.
What's also important, though, is how snatched you are. Look how fabulous you look. What is happening?
Have you not seen his Instagram? I didn't have enough time. I was going to put up some pictures to embarrass.
Oh, I'm so sad that you didn't get a chance to do that.
No.
What is going on? Those aren't Spanx? That's the actual bod?
Yes.
That was season 1. That's not even as good as it got. I'm just saying. Although I have to say, 3 months here at home, I started back with my trainer at his personal gym this week because if I'm going back to work anytime soon, things need to tighten things up.
You gotta
I'm 46. Things fall apart a lot faster these days.
Don't get us started. We're devastated. I guess so. What was the feedback about having? Because that's really the first gay couple on Star Trek, right? Official gay couple.
Anthony and I played the first openly gay men on Star Trek ever, and we had the first male gay kiss on Star Trek TV. Yeah, no, it was a big deal. It was. We were well aware. Like I remember, Anthony and I had a really lovely moment before we filmed that first kiss and marked the moment for ourselves about how important it was.
Yeah, Kate Mulgrew was on the other day,
nice.
and she talked about that being the first woman captain and the importance of that. And it was really touching to hear, and to hear you say that too.
Yeah, I have a good life. It's a good life.
And do you feel like did you get any flack for being, Latino on the show, and Afro-Latino, or for being gay, and how did you deal with it?
You mean on Star Trek?
Yeah.
I mean, look, Star Trek is an international known franchise. And when something is as widely known as that, there's going to be a handful of people who have their feelings. And I let them have them, and sometimes I lose it. But for the most part, I let the work do the work, right? And I believe that the story that Anthony and I are telling on that show is one of the best stories that Star Trek has ever told. So I feel very confident in that. And are there people who, have their homophobic and racist views? Absolutely. I don't let a lot of that get to me. I do get upset when they start going after other people I love, right? When it becomes about attacking other people, that's when I have to step in. For me, like water off a duck's back.
Ducky.
Hey, and Wilson, talk about your new documentary. Is it documentary or documentary series?
It's a documentary series. It's called Visible Out on TV. It's on Apple TV Plus, and it's 5 hours. And it is literally the history of LGBTQ people and how television helped us move the needle forward towards acceptance. And it starts at the inception of television, at the invention of it, through current day. And we get to tell the story about how television helped tell our story about who we actually are, as opposed to the false narratives that are told by the other side. And we get to honor and acknowledge the people who took all of those risks to tell those stories, because it was a risk. And a lot of them were straight in the beginning because of our own fears and our own the reality that we were living in, especially in the 50s. So, people like Martin Sheen and Hal Holbrook and Jane Alexander and, these people who took on these roles because we couldn't, but they wanted our stories told, and those stories helped change the narrative. But, we also get to talk about how Harvey Milk used television. We get to see, the problematic depictions that we saw early on, and how we have progressed through the years. And it's a fascinating look at our entire movement, but through the lens of television.
I think this is the clip that's on your.
I think it's.
I called the executive producers over to my house, and I told them that I wanted to come out. It became bigger than any of us ever anticipated.
I get a telephone call.
And my agent sends me this script.
And the character breakdown for the character of Taylor Mason said non-binary. Hello, I'm Taylor. My pronouns are they, theirs, and them.
It's hard to talk about without stressing how invisible gay people were.
The earliest representations were always people to be mocked.
People who couldn't be just who they were.
The truth is there was no LGBT presence on TV that I can remember. in 1971. We wanted to show people as they really are.
In all that time, did I ever mention a woman?
It's the first time ever on an American sitcom that a character came out and said he was gay.
That was, to me, the breakthrough.
Was a broken thing, had a voice, but I could not sing. You would want me down.
We were fighting for our lives.
I will probably die before I turn 30 years of age.
That's how much homophobia there is in the community.
This was the coming out moment for the movement on national television. This was the time they first saw us.
My dad threw me out of the house. The episode airs, and my phone rings. And it's my dad.
One of the great things about television is it helps us to make sense of who we are and where we're going.
Something about being on television makes people see you as part of our culture.
Women who looked like me could be the centers of their own universe.
When you see images that are reflective of your own life, it's a reminder to you that your life matters.
I didn't realize that I was the revolution that I was waiting for.
I'll shout it out like a bird set free.
Wilson, you have us crying here. It's so amazing.
God.
Oh my God.
He's so
I haven't
good.
watched that trailer in a few months, and I just have to say, you know, it was 7 years of my life, and I'm so proud of it. And what makes me cry is that I have so many friends in that clip who are world changers, you know, who have changed the landscape of television and of this movement. You know, I think about Billy Porter and Lena Waithe and Janet Mock, and, you know, these people who really risked everything just to tell the truth. And that's what the series is about. You know, we just, Wanda and Ryan, who directed and produced it, and myself were just named to the Hollywood Reporter's 50 most powerful players, LGBT players in Hollywood, just came out this week. And
Yes.
and I'm, you know, I've never been on a list like that, but I'm so proud that I'm on that list for that.
Yeah.
You know, when I leave here, when I leave this mortal plane, that will be a big part of my legacy, that I got to tell that story, and that I got to say thank you to all of those people who created the world that allowed me to live as openly as I do.
Oh, wow. All right. I can't wait to watch it because we haven't seen it yet.
Thank
So
God.
we're watching it.
Can't wait.
It reminds me of so much stuff I forgot about Jody on soap and.
Oh, you haven't? Well, just wait. There's stuff that you didn't even know existed. Trust me.
Oh man, I can't wait. Hey, before we go, we got to talk about your amazing Rent mishmash where everyone's singing together. How did that happen?
So Michael McElroy, you know, one of my best friends and who I did Rent with on Broadway for years. He was my Collins. He called me up one day and he was like, "I'm putting together these, bringing together a bunch of people who were part of the Broadway cast through the years, and we're going to do Seasons of Love. Would you want to do it? Because it's for these 3 healthcare workers during the COVID pandemic who were big fans of Rent, and so he wanted to gift them this. We were doctors and nurses, and then yesterday morning he emailed me and said, you know, feel free to share this on social media. And yesterday was George Floyd's memorial, and so I posted it, but in honor of George Floyd this time, because truly it was his Seasons of Love that changed his city, his community, his country, and now the world. And we're having this conversation finally because of the senseless loss of his life. And so I wanted to mark that in some way.
So this was made as a present for specific healthcare workers, but now it's really a universal get together. I can't wait. I only watched the very beginning. I can't wait to watch this. Here it is. Everyone, all these people that have done Rent. Here we go.
Hi, Ashlyn. My name's Karen Olivo. I'm a Broadway actor.
I used to be a part of the Broadway company of Rent. And we heard that that was one of your favorite musicals. And knowing that you were having really long days and you could really use a pick-me-up, we wanted to give something to you. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. We know that you don't have to be doing what you're doing. It means so much to us. And if we can brighten up your day even a little bit, well, we hope this does it. Thank you.
$525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear, 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in inches, in miles, in laughter, in strife, in 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year in the life? How about love? How about love? How about love? Measuring love. Seasons of love. Seasons of love. 525,600 minutes. 525,000 journeys to play. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure the life of a woman or a man?
Truth that she learned, or in times that he cried, bridges he burned, all the way that she died.
It's time now to sing out the story that ends. Let's celebrate, remember a year in the life of friends. Seasons of love. Seasons of love.
Come on, how do you not cry through that?
Wilson, who was the soloist? I didn't recognize her.
You didn't ask me
Names? I forget. I'll ask Michael.
It's there on the end. I'm sorry. I
recognize so many people that I just couldn't remember who she was, but I saw Michael, of course. They all look amazing. Everyone sounds amazing.
Wilson, thanks for doing this at the
Well,
last.
Marcus Paul James, who sang his face off. I know that.
She's making us signs for our protest tomorrow, Julie. She started making us signs.
I bought like around 50 of these poster boards, and I'm gonna make tons of posters so I can hand them out to anybody who doesn't have a poster. Remember, Pride started out as a riot, and then that's what happens.
And a riot is the language of the unheard, said Martin Luther King. So, I love you, and I'm grateful for you, and I'm so grateful that you guys have been doing this. You're heroes.
Thanks, Wills. You're always there for us. All right, well, we're going to see you again. We're going to have some kind of reunion with you, I'm sure, either Ren or My So-Called Life or Star Trek or something.
Okay.
All right.
We'll get together again soon too when I'm singing again.
All right. You gonna play us out, Seth?
Yeah.
Wanna play the credits? Okay. What are you gonna play? What are you gonna play? All right. The credits are going.
What do I remember? I remember this.
Okay.
I don't know the rest.
Oh, come on.
525,600 minutes. 525,000 journeys planned. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure life of a woman or a man? In truth, that she learned from times that he found, and the bridges he burned, or the way that she died. To stay up, though the story left me. Celebrate, remember a year in the life.
All right.
Remember that love. Love. Seasons of love. Okay.
All right.
In my head.